Everybody, thanks for letting us speak to you and give you some fun ideas while you have lunch, and we also realize we are the last thing that's in between you and the slopes or any activities, or also from the conversations I've had, some extra work that you're going to go back to your rooms and do. So we'll try to keep it fun and give you some things to think about. So a title like personalization in the new decade of data, trust, and engagement. So personalization, yes, that's what we're all here this week to talk about, really timely, important topic. We'll dive into that a little bit more, but also looking at it as the new decade. 2020 is just a few weeks away, which is super exciting. Shouldn't go unnoticed, a good opportunity to sit down, reflect, but also plan what does the next decade actually look like. And then lastly, these buzzwords of data, trust, engagement, all three things we've probably talked about already today. I know we'll talk about more throughout this week. Data for sure, couldn't hear that word enough if you're playing some bingo, buzzword bingo. Trust, we've heard it a little bit. I think we've heard it come through with GDPR, CCPA, but we really see it as more than just meeting those regulations, and so we'll dive into that. And then lastly, engagement and how we engage customers. So as Ken said, my name's Rachel Boyles. I'm on the product marketing team at Salesforce. I've been with Salesforce for 5 years. I started in the customer success group, got to work with actually some of the lovely faces in this room. And I brought that customer-facing experience into the product marketing team, where I work on our email and content products, and I get to work alongside really awesome product managers like Abbe.
Hey everyone, as Rachel said, I'm Abbe Spaans. From the product management side of the house, I focus on content in the Marketing Cloud. I've been with Salesforce for 6 years, and this is my first time at EIS, so super excited to be here. But fun fact, not my first time at Deer Valley. I actually got married here, so super special to be here with all of you.
Awesome, thanks Abby. And it's my first time actually at Deer Valley, and I'm planning on going skiing later. I'm still kind of new to the ski world, so if anybody wants to hit some green runs, let me know. I'm looking for a few others to do that with, so awesome. So quickly, because Abby's here, we're talking about some fun product stuff. We might talk about some things that are going to be coming soon, so just letting you know, we won't go through this line by line. I know it's thrilling lunch stuff. But just letting you know that to make your purchasing decisions on commercially available things. So personalization, our email inboxes are completely full today with promos, deals, alerts, password resets, whatever, but we're also as marketers sending those promos all the time. We're sending promos, we're sending deals, we're just filling up the email inbox, but we also know as consumers that it's hard to get our attention, and it's hard to get the attention of our subscribers because it's a loud and noisy space. So we start to think about how important personalization is to help us stand out in that inbox. But moments like this still do happen. Obviously, we just had a great panel about those mistakes that happen. Some probably a little bit more extreme than a high first name moment, but it happens, right? We're not here to sit here and shame these things. They're all learning experiences. But really what we want to talk about is how do we do this? How do we move beyond first name personalization? How do we get first name personalization right? But how do you take it to the next level? And what are some of the other things that we can be doing? But it's incredibly important to think about how we got here, right? How did we get into this place of all these email messages in our inboxes where we're striving to be personalized? And here we are at Mount Marketing, where we can say the end goal is peak customer engagement. So we start off with word of mouth way back when there wasn't a lot of tools for marketers to get their word out about what their messages were, hoping that their customers were just saying good things about them. Then we got into mass media, we got into advertising, we started seeing different television advertisements, we'd see billboards, out-of-home types of things, which then brings us into the digital world, which we all know and love and talk about so much, and how do we personalize these new digital spaces that we are all frequenting every day. And the hope now of moving into this fourth industrial revolution, where things are going to be a little bit more intelligent, where in the future we all will be shopping with through our glasses, ordering the things that we need in the moment, and probably getting it dropped to us via drone or something fun. So there's a lot of things that are coming out, a lot of new exciting technologies, and through all of this and through all these changes, customer expectations are changing, and we shouldn't be surprised because our expectations are changing. And we continue to see these numbers grow over time, but with 73%, so almost 3/4 of customers expect companies to understand their needs and expectations. So that's a high number in general, but what really stands out to me and what I like to think about here are terms like needs and expectations. Those are the words that I use with my friends and family, words that I use in my relationships that you build with your friends and family. And now customers are actually putting those words onto the relationships that they build with brands. So they're really expecting it to be a personalized experience. Yeah, almost 2/3 of customers have actually stopped buying from a brand if they do something that's distrustful, which I think all of us in the audience can have a moment where a brand does something funky and it makes us second guess whether or not we want to continue to engage with them. So it's customers that are really leading what this new future looks like, this intelligent marketing, and what they're mandating of us as marketers. So we see 3 marketer mandates, with the first being building trust. Like I said, seeing this going beyond what we see in terms of regulations, beyond the CCPA, going beyond GDPR, and really starting to build trust with the customer, and especially in the email world, to build trust in the inbox. And to do that by having them share their permission with us and acknowledging that permission, but being transparent about what we're doing with all of that data, telling them the benefits of, if you're going to share your data with us, this is how it's going to benefit you and what you're going to get back from us in that way. And then lastly, giving the customer the ultimate control over what they're doing with the data, what we're going to do with their data. All of those 3 working together to truly start to build trust, where 92% of customers will trust companies with their data when they have the control of that data. One example I like to think about, it's really recent, and just this exchange of data where customers are, in general, and subscribers in general are more willing to share data, is when they're going to get something really great in return with it. And I think something really fun that just happened, if anybody's a Spotify user, where they just shared some of the data back with their customers and with their listeners of what are their top listens for the entire year, even the top listens for the decade, which is really cool that if I'm sharing all this data with Spotify, the fact that they're able then to tell me something really interesting, and I don't know about other people, but my Instagram stories was pretty busy that first day that was live, with everybody sharing their data out because it's such a cool moment, but also really rewarding that we can get our data back in a meaningful way. So once we have all of that data, the customers are expecting us to connect it. They don't want to have separate conversations as a service customer, as a sales customer, as a marketing customer. If I'm having an issue and I'm doing something on the website and I call into customer service, I want them to be able to recognize maybe that page I left off on or where I had that error. I want to be able to have this cohesive, consistent experience across all of those different areas. And what we're really seeing when we do some of the state of marketing reports at Salesforce, we're starting to see marketers leading that drive of bringing the different data points together. It's a little bit lower, but we continue to see this number increase. Right now, slightly under half of marketers are leading this charge of bringing all of the data and creating that unified view of the customer. Ultimately, it's not a surprising thing for all of you in this room that that's where we all need to be, but what we're starting to see is that marketers are taking charge, and they're doing so in a successful way. And they're taking charge to ultimately reach that 3rd mandate of transforming engagement overall. Super interesting, almost 3/4 of customers say that one experience raises the bar for all of their other experiences that they have with other brands. That does not consider whether or not that's within the same industry or competitors. So if I have a really great experience in financial services, I expect to have it elsewhere. And I say that as an example because reflecting on the brands that I think are doing really well, there's some financial services brands that maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, nobody was talking about them as leaders, but they're doing some really interesting things in the mobile space or in the digital space, or giving me my data back in a meaningful way, or even thinking about hospitality. And now I think some of the tables are turning where these different industries are now setting the bar for retailers, and also retailers setting the bar back for them. But ultimately, that top experience that you can all think about, that's the expectation that customers are going to be holding all of their other experiences to. So what does this mean for email, right? As we're starting to see the customer engaged and the customer engagement changing, we're also starting to see this shift, right? Where we're creating all this content to build these really amazing experiences. Well, if we want to have this transformation and engagement, we also have to transform the way that we're building our messages. So we're starting to see, I'm calling it the email of the past, but right now it's the email of the present for probably the majority of this room, where it's a static wireframe message. And these aren't bad things, but this is just this consistent experience in the way that emails have been built previously, designing that full message. Even batch and blast, I bet a lot of us are still even guilty of doing that. And it works. We make money from it. Email still does really well with $42 for every dollar spent. And that's not when massive personalization is added in. But where we see it moving is into this more interactive and dynamic type of message, really starting to change the way that customers are engaging in their inboxes. And the way we're seeing it happen is through modular frameworks, through designing blocks and those content and intermixing that. So some of the stuff that even Chris was talking about is having that content block be the driver and switching out based on what's unique to that customer, making it one-to-one, making one-to-one become reality. Content libraries and reuse, which is super fascinating, that retiring content after a few sends doesn't have to exist anymore. Retiring content after a few views by a specific customer can be the future where that content can get a little bit more length out of it. And then lastly, AI to start helping us automate who gets what and when. So making a little bit more, giving us a little bit more context to this elusive AI term, what it means, where it's going, but really thinking about what's the content, helping us pick the content as marketers and helping us decide when they should get it. So we see a few benefits to come from this with increased email engagement, open rates, click rates, those types of things are going to go up because the customer is going to find it a more engaging space. It's just going to be an improved email inbox overall. But also improved time savings. Just thinking about the way that we all work with our broader teams, and a lot of times marketers are not only on the hook for increasing the open rate or increasing the click rate, but we're also on the hook for being able to increase efficiency, to be able to get more out of the resources and the tools that we already have, to be able to cut costs down. I mean, that's where you see somebody like Chris say he's able to drive down to 20 people from the 40 or so that he was with before. But that doesn't mean that those people are going somewhere else. But what that means is that he's able to use those resources in a different way, or your teams are able to use those resources using your time in a different way that then allows you to dive into deeper, these more engaging and interactive spaces, that enhanced customer experience. So as we think about this, the shift in the customer mandates, these marketer mandates, the shift in the email evolution, and we also start to think about, Abby and I will talk, like, what does this mean for product? So I'm going to pass it over to her to dive into some of the themes that we see coming out of this. Thanks,
awesome. Thank you. All right, so the three themes that Rachel mentioned that we're seeing here: content efficiency, interactivity, and artificial intelligence. And because I come from the development side, these are also shaping how we build products and think about designing our roadmaps. So to dive into the first one, content efficiency. We heard a lot this morning about how your teams are built, how they're spending time, how much time it can take to launch campaigns, how many you're doing. It's super important that at every step of what you're doing, you think about where can we save time and maybe focus instead on more strategic initiatives. So whether that's looking at your sends, finding common elements in some, most, all of them, where can you leverage templates, reusable headers, footers, layouts, a lot of the foundational pieces. Where can you reuse content across multiple sends instead of having to create it over and over again? How do you upload, organize, find the content to use in a specific message? Maybe you can add some tagging in there to more quickly find the right asset, or a little bit of artificial intelligence to maybe find a better asset to use. Regardless of the number of tools you're using, can you seamlessly integrate them together? Can you extend and customize the tools you're using so that they fit your unique use case and workflow? We also heard a lot this morning about how important the QA and testing process is, whether that's the static copy you have or all those different variations, maybe even browser client versions you need to test in. And who needs to approve the content you've built before you hit send, which can be a pretty scary experience. So kind of designing out that entire workflow for you and your teams up front and thinking through where can you save time, how can all of your tools work together to help you. Then, once we get past kind of super efficient content creation, we can start to move to the more exciting new trends that are starting to emerge, like our second theme, interactivity. So what you see here is kind of the standard most of us are used to. You get an email with a call to action that goes to a landing page. We know as marketers that asking someone to go from one channel to another causes friction, and there's a good likelihood that they're going to drop off, not give you that amazing zero-party data, which ultimately we need to power any kind of personalization. So by bringing interactivity right into the inbox, we can capture more data about our customers, we can boost engagement in their preferred channel, we can do things like reviews, progressive profiling, to ultimately drive better experiences for our users and better results for marketers, and anyone, whether that's marketing interactions, sales, service, any touch point that you have. So some things to kind of think about when you consider interactivity. What are the campaigns you're doing? Where are you interacting with your customers? And what experiences would benefit from bringing that right into the inbox? What do you want to learn about your customers? And ultimately, how do you gauge the performance and success of a campaign? As you start to do more stuff like this, maybe that's not opens and clicks, but rather the volume of data you're getting back from your customers. So once we've got that in place, we can move to our third theme, artificial intelligence, which sort of brings it all together. So while we talked this morning about how having someone's first name in a subject line can definitely get them to click, that's not the end of personalization that customers think about. They're ultimately looking for a completely tailored experience to them as an individual. And as a marketer, if you don't start to add in some AI, some automation, that is not a scalable process that you can get to. So if you've got a content library full of tons of assets that can be reused and assembled in any kind of permutation, if you know a ton about your audience, who they are, where they live, what they're interested in, and then you can add in AI to bring that all together, you can start to build out entirely tailored emails that are really just one email behind the scene. And that's sort of the future vision that we're working towards, but you don't have to start there day one. It could be one part of an email instead of the entire thing. We have a quote here from Abbe. With AI, we've been able to rethink our approach, or not Abbe, Orvis. We've been able to rethink our approach to email as we continue to think outside the box. So customer expectations and trends in technology are always changing and evolving. And as marketers, we need to stay on top of that. And some of the best ways to do that are just always looking at how you and your teams operate. Where can you be more efficient? Where can you save time? Where can you be smarter in starting to leverage AI, machine learning, and bring that into your process and the tools that you use? So to bring this all home, we talked about our 3 marketer mandates: building trust, making sure you're getting permission, you're being transparent about how you're going to use data, and giving customers control over how it's used and what you're giving them. Taking charge of connecting that data across every touch point. Email is not a silo. You have awareness across every single touch point that you have. And transforming the engagement, making sure that every campaign you're launching is truly providing an amazing experience for your customers. And this funnels into our themes of efficient content creation and curation, interactivity, and artificial intelligence at every step of the journey. So with that, thank you so much. We hope you have a lovely time out skiing or snowboarding or snowmobiling this afternoon, and we'll be around if you have any questions.